everybody, Loacher for Life here, bringing us a brand new Archeype analysis. Holy crap, I haven't done one of these in forever. So, I'm sorry for not really doing one of these for a while, guys. And I know I promised I'd do freaking, what was it, Magic Bullets next, but it's been so long and I need to catch up. So I'm going to try and really just kind of like pump these out over the next few weeks and catch up. And first and foremost, I want to talk about one of my favorite decks from the most recent set. That being Mekk-knights. Mekk-knights are a really, really intriguing deck, and they have a lot going for them, but also a lot going against them, which really does suck, because I want to see this deck do well. And no, not the Invoke version. I hate the Invoke version with a burning passion, and I'll explain why later. But anyway, so first and foremost, what are Mekk-knights? What is their main thing? So every single Mekk-knight, with the exception of the extract monster and the normal monster coming out in the next set, is level 5 or higher. They all are basically Cyber Dragons in a way, where if there are 2 or more cards in the same column, you can summon them from your hand. You know, I do that once per turn for each one of them, but however, there's, what, like 7 different main deck Mekk-knights, not including the normal monster coming out in the next set. So, you got 7 different monsters you can summon out very easily. They have really, really, really darn good spell and trap card support, but however, the spells and traps are really only as good as however many Mekk-knights you are playing, and the less Mekk-knights you play, the less spells and traps you should be playing. And it really does go without saying about that too. It's very, very annoying, but like the deck does have really good spells and traps overall. And then finally, I know I said generally for this in the slide, but every single card, their effects are column based, and that's the main gimmick of the deck, but also the main thing that's holding it back. And that's my big issue, is that the gimmick of the deck is really, really, really holding this deck back, because this deck could be really, really good if it wasn't for the fact that every single card is so heavily focused on columns, and they're so easily played around just for, well, just being careful where you play stuff. So on to the monsters. First and foremost, let's talk about Purple Nightfall. So, as I mentioned earlier, every single Mekk-knight has the following effect. If 2 or more cards are in the same column, you can spell summon this card from your hand in that column. You can only spell summon one Mekk-knight of whatever the name is once per turn this way, and that's the big thing. It's very, very, very every single one of them has that. So it's very, very obnoxious that that is such a hard condition, but it's easily played around in the deck. Now then, Purple Nightfall is a particularly really good monster. He's one of the deck's 2 main searchers. Yes, that's right, this deck has 2 search cards. Most decks don't even have 1, and they're lucky enough to, if they do have 1, this deck has 2, and they're both very, very powerful. So, Purple Nightfall, his effect is once per turn during your opponent's turn, you can banish one Mekk-knight you control until while your next standby phase. And, well, search out any Mekk-knight from your deck to your hand, except another copy of himself. Now, most times you're going to be banishing himself, but however, you can also banish your other Mekk-knights, and if you do, you can potentially get even more pluses, because you can use this effect on his turn, on your turn, banish something, get to search, and then his effect, since it's a quick effect, do it during your opponent's turn, banish another dude, maybe enchain something like a 101 or Castell or something, to dodge it, and then get another search. He is really, really, really good, and he's generally best the early game. Okay, really is, because the other searcher and gets better the longer the game goes on. Purple Nightfall is generally the best at going first, hopefully he wouldn't have to go first. But however, yeah, it really is just one of the best search cards in the deck, and you do want to play 3. And then we got Azure Sky, the other search card. He is really, really better going, well, second, or even better yet, in the late game. So you can, whenever he's special summoned or normal summoned from the hand, you can add Mekk-knight monsters with different names except Blue Sky from your deck to your hand, equal the number of cards, your opponent's cards in this card's column. So basically, if, let's say your opponent has a Link monster, a monster right behind that Link monster, and a spell or trap card, okay? And you summon him to that zone. You're going to get to add 3 Mekk-knights with different names from your deck to your hand. That's almost half the Archeype in the main deck. This card is really, really good. You can search out Purple Nightfall. Purple Nightfall can search out Blue Sky. It goes without saying these 2 work in tandem together really, really, really well. My biggest qualm with Blue Sky is his freaking stats. His stats are terrible. I really wish they were reversed, or at least he had like a few extra 100 points of damage or something in his attack power. But it just really is just kind of meh with his stat line. He is a 2 to 3 of depending on your build, which is a bit weird because you'd think that, oh yeah, this got to be an instant 3 of no matter what. He is a 2 of in certain builds of the deck though, because Purple Nightfall is just infinitely better for the most part. But however, if you're playing a pure build, you do play 3 of each without a doubt. Really good card overall. And then we got Indigo Eclipse. This card is the best non-search monster. I'll be completely and totally honest. He's a complete and total play enabler. He's 2400 attack, 2400 defense, really good stats all around. He's level 8 too, which just goes really well with trade-in, and his deck has a lot of level 8, so you can do trade-in pretty easily. And he has so many other like shenanigans with the spells and trap cards, it's really ridiculous. So what does he do? Well, he's pretty simple. Once per turn, during your player's turn, you can target one Mekk-knight you control, and then move it to another zone. That's literally all he does. He just moves a Mekk-knight to another zone, which is really, really good, and a lot better than you'd probably think. Like, and you think, oh, that's just okay. Well, the thing is that the Mekk-knight spells and traps are also column-based and require your Mekk-knights to be in different zones to really get their things going. And then also, not only that, but also you can plop them on the field, use this effect, move them to another zone, plop another dude onto that zone that you just, well, moved them out of. So you can do some shenanigans with that too. Really good card overall, good stats, just such an incredibly good card in overall for the deck. I think he's a 3 of instantly for most builds. Maybe for the Invoked build, he's a 2 of, but I really do like this card as a 3 of for most builds. And then we got Red Moon, and I'm also going to talk about Yellow Star at the same time. So Red Moon and Yellow Star are the basically exact same monsters, but however they have one different thing. So Red Moon, you can banish a Mekk-knight from your graveyard, and then target one monster in the field in its card's column, destroy it. And then Yellow Star does the same thing, but destroys spells and traps. So what's my issue with these cards? Well, they have pretty good stats overall, I would say. They could have been better, but they're good. They destroy the cards in the columns. Why is that the case? Okay, now obviously, yes, this deck is column based. But however, why can't I banish a Mekk-knight, which is not the greatest thing in the world? I mean, yes, this deck does have recursion to get something back from the banish zone, and these two are your main 2 ways of banishing your Mekk-knights, other than Purple Nightfall. But however, why do I have to destroy stuff in the same column as this? Why could this not have been destroy any card on a field? Okay, I get it that yes, this deck is column focused, and yes, they are really pushing that column thing. But however, these cards would have been infinitely better and much more playable if they could pop anything. If I could, heck, Yellow Star can't even hit field spells because field spells do not have a column. So you can't even go after your opponent's field spells, period. So if you're doing against True Draco or ABC and you want to get rid of their field spells so they stop plussing off of them, you can't do that unless you play an outside thing like Cosmic Cyclone or something, which, well, you probably will be anyways. But you should also still be able to rely on your actual monsters to put in their work. These cards are just super meh, but you still have to play them because of the field spell and other things. Oh, that and also the Mekk-knights, they got to be able to search them out. So they are really honestly a 0 to 2 of, depending on what you want to do and how much you like these cards and what your build is. Personally, I'm playing 1 each in a pure build. I don't like them enough to play them at more than 1. They just aren't anything particularly great. Now, I will say this, they are not hard once per turns, so that's something. So if you have a way to get multiple out, you can pop multiple things, but it's really not all that great. Now, I could forgive the column restriction if they were quick effects. If they were quick effects, they would be a lot better. You could do it during your opponent's turn. You could summon Red Moon into a zone that's in the same column as one of the extra monster zones to really put pressure onto your opponent to not be able to go into their extra deck, because Red Moon will just pop it. But they aren't quick effects. They are once per turn effects during your turn only. They really, I don't like these cards at all. Just run 1 to 2 of, depending on your build. And if you aren't playing pure Mekk-knights, they probably aren't even worth playing at all. Then we got Green Horizon. Green Horizon's an interesting quandary compared to the other two, and is pretty cool. So what Green Horizon does is whenever an attack is declared involving him and a monster in the same column as him, you can add any Mekk-knight from your graveyard into your hand. You can even grab another copy of himself, which is pretty cool. The issue, again, is that, again, the column thing. If you attack anybody else, you don't get the effect to grab back something. If your opponent attacks with anything else other than a monster in his column, you don't get to grab anything. It's very, very, very obnoxious that it only triggers when an attack is declared involving him and a monster in the same column as him. Heck, you can't even get the recursion if he attacks directly. It's really just kind of weird. I like him as a card. He's pretty good. Decent stats for... he really could have been better, though, in all honesty. But, however... yeah, he's just okay. He really could have been a lot better. I do like his recursion effect. The deck does need recursion, so he's just kind of okay. He's a 1 to 2 of. I like him at 2, though, in my builds that I've been playing, just because he is useful for getting back your Mekk-knights to be able to do more stuff with. So, now then, moving on. We got Orange Sunset. Orange Sunset is a weird one. So it has, quite honestly, the worst stats in the entire archetype. So it has 800 attack and 3k defense. I know it's supposed to be like the defender of the deck, but still not the greatest stats. And 3k defense is cool and all, and it can be a bit annoying or tricky for your opponent to get over, but it's still not the greatest. And then basically, once per turn, if an opponent's card in this card's column is destroyed by battle or leaves the field, you can spell summon Mekk-knight from your hand. And actually, that's not once per turn. I just realized that. So if you do get a way to destroy multiple cards in the same column as him that your opponent controls, you do get to spell summon more monsters from your hand. And this is the deck's primary way of getting around the you can only summon this card once per turn this way restriction. And this card would have been a lot better if it weren't for the fact that Red Moon and Orange Sunset, if Red Moon and Yellow Star could only destroy stuff in their columns. If they could destroy other stuff, you could pop a monster in the same column as Orange Sunset, spell summon another Mekk-knight. You could pop a spell or trap card in the same column as Orange Sunset. And then, hey, look at that. You get to summon out another Mekk-knight. This card would have been so much better if only those other two cards were better. It really is just that simple. Oh, well. Next up, oh yeah, I forgot to mention it. Play 1. If you're playing the pure build, you play 1. Don't play any if you're not playing the pure build. And then we got Avram, the normal monster who's level 4 and 2k attack with 0 defense, coming out in the next set. Also, he's coming out in the Extreme Force Special Edition, if I remember right, as a super rare, which is pretty cool. So he's a Rescue Rabbit target, which is pretty nice. He's the only non-tribute monster, which is hilarious. He's good. He's got pretty good stats, and depending on your build and what you want to do with the deck, he's actually pretty useful. I don't recommend playing him, though. I really can't find a reason to play him right now until, unless the deck does get a Link 2. If the deck gets a Link 2, he becomes actually pretty useful because you can just normal summon Rescue Rabbit, banish it, get out 2 of these guys, and go straight for the Link 2, which could then help out with making the big boss monster who we'll cover, I believe, next. So he's good in certain builds, particularly the grass builds. So for those who don't know, the field spell, what it does, you can send it from your field to the graveyard. Well, actually, you don't even have to send it from the field to the graveyard. I'll cover the field spell in a bit later, but basically, there's a really good reason for why Avram is actually not half bad in the grass builds, but we'll cover that when we get to the field spell. So next up, for the boss monster, Spectrum Supreme. He's a Link 3 with 3k attack. Needs 2 or more Mekk-knights to go into. That's like the big thing that people really, the big reason why people hope that this deck does get a Link 2 eventually. So anyways, he's got 3k attack power. He's a Link 3. This card can attack directly if it is the only card in its column. If this card is in the extra monster zone, points to no monsters. It cannot be destroyed by card effects. Also, your opponent cannot target with card effects. You can send one other card you control in this card's column to the graveyard, spell summon 1 Mekk-knight from your deck in defense position. You only use this effect of Spectrum Supreme once per turn. So, Mekk-knight Spectrum Supreme is an incredibly powerful boss monster. He's got really good stats. 2 pretty good effects. Heck, actually 3 really good effects. The special summon effect is actually better than you'd think, because it really does help out with just being able to get more monsters out on the field. And you can summon them out onto another column that he doesn't point to. Or if you don't really particularly care for the really useful protection effects, you can summon your dudes to the same zones they points to. Obviously, that's not that great, but however, he does open up some really interesting plays, because it really does make it to where you got to be smart and think about what you want to do. Do you want to have one big boss monster, or do you want to be able to just summon out multiple smaller monsters? Because thanks to his effect, and also the fact that, well, you still got columns going on, and he himself counts towards that. So if like you got him and a spell trap card in his column, you can summon out a Mekk-knight to that zone, use his effect, send dispel a trap card to the graveyard, spell summon another Mekk-knight, and just go off from there. He does enable you to just be able to go for even more plays with like Xyz and stuff. My biggest issue with him is that he is a bit difficult to summon, and that's one of the big reasons why we do really need a Mekk-knight Link 2, because if we had a Mekk-knight Link 2, we could make him a bit easier, and hopefully the Mekk-knight Link 2 would be arguably just as good. So this card's pretty good overall, but however, due to his difficulty to summon, he's a 1 to 2 of in most builds, and if you're playing the Invoke build, you don't play him at all because, oh boy. Okay, anyways, moving on. World Legacy, World Armor. So, oh boy. They really screwed up with the World Legacy for this deck. So, the World Legacy for World Chalice is a necessary 2 to 3 of. The World Legacy for Crawlers is a necessary 2 to 3 of. The World Legacy for freaking Mekk-knights is so atrociously bad, I don't recommend touching it with a 10-foot pole. So what does World Shield do? He's got 0 attack, he's got 3k defense. Okay, so not half bad stats, I'll be honest, for a defense like shield kind of thing. It's a level 6. You unaffected by activated effects from any monster spell summoned from the extra deck. Okay, pretty good so far. Your opponent cannot target your World Legacy cards in this column with card effects. Also, they cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Still pretty good. So what kills this card? During this standby phase, if this card is in your graveyard, you can pay 1,000 life points, spell summon this card. Then your opponent can spell summon one monster from their hand. You can only use this effect of World Legacy World Shield once per turn. It's summoning condition. Okay, so during the standby phase, okay, so anybody's standby phase, it's got to be in your graveyard. You got to pay 1,000 life points. You can then special summon it. It only protects one of your World Legacy cards, and only the one in its column, so you can't even protect your other stuff. And then it also takes up a spot for your Mekk-knights to be able to go into, and then it gives your opponent a free monster. I could have put up with the pay 1,000. I could have put up with the standby phase, but they just had to go and kill this with the giving your opponent a free monster. This card is a Gilasaurus, and there's a good reason why nobody plays Gilasaurus, because it gives your opponent a free monster. This card, I do not recommend playing it at all. Do not touch it. Do not consider it. Please, please, for the life of, just do not touch it. Okay, don't play it. Don't consider it. Don't run it. The effect is just subpar for what you gotta do to get it out on field. It's just terrible. Don't. At least the sword that comes out of the next set is not half bad. So, on to the field spell. World Legacy Scars. All Mekk-knights monsters on the field gain 300 attack and defense. Once per turn, you can discard a Mekk-knight monster or one World Legacy card. Draw one card. You can banish 8 Mekk-knight monsters with different names from your graveyard and or face up from your field. Send your opponent's entire hand and extra deck to the graveyard. So, right now, there are exactly 8 Mekk-knight monsters. You got Spectrum Supreme, and then the 7 extra deck monsters, if I remember correctly. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so there are 8 extra, 8 main deck monsters, and then you got 9 with Avram. Now, this still, the gimmicky effect, obviously, is to banish 8 Mekk-knights to, well, do some shenanigans. That's not a terrible effect. I mean, heck, you get rid of your opponent's entire hand and their extra deck. That can be really stupid. It's not a once per turn, so if your opponent does have something to negate it, you could theoretically do it again. And then also, of course, you don't have to get rid of the field spell. I know with, like, I think the Deskbot field spell, It's the one that does that, where you gotta it does basically the same thing, but you gotta get rid of the field spell. This card is a bit easier to resolve than the Despot field spell, because I think the Despot field spell needs like 12 Despots to resolve it. This card, you only need 8 Mekk-knights, and it feels its own effect with the discarding thing. I really, really like this field spell. It adds so much consistency to the deck. It makes it to where the deck is a lot more functional, and the extra attack and defense is really nice as well. And the main thing you really do use is that draw effect, and that's not a hard once per turn. So if you get multiple scars, you can keep using the effect. I don't recommend that though. But however, I do recommend playing at least 2 to 3. It really is such a great field spell for this deck. Just being able to get more cards in your hand, get more cards in your graveyard, and feels the effects of Red Moon and Yellow Star, and also feels the one of the two trap cards. It really does just help out overall. Next up, we got the first, and only other spell card in the deck. It's a continuous spell, World Legacy Key. When this card is activated, you can target one of your banished Mekk-knights or World Legacy cards, add it to your hand. Negate any opponent's trap card that activates in the same column as a Mekk-knight monster you control. So, it's really good recursion. It's really good negation effect, too. This card really, for pure builds, I recommend playing 2 to 3 of it. For non-pure builds, it really does come down to your matchup, and it's probably better for playing side, especially considering we got so much back row going around now. It is such a great, useful, and powerful card, though. Very, very good for certain things, especially in certain matchups as well. Now then, and it just dawned on me that her staff has turned into like a key thing. I never noticed that before. I'm gonna be completely honest. So now then, we got World Legacy Secret. Secret. Continuous trap card. When this card is activated, you can target a level 5 or higher monster in graveyard, spells to summon it. When this card leaves the field, destroy that monster. Negate any opponent's monster effect that activates in the same column as a Mekk-knight monster you control. So this card is pretty good overall. It's basically called a haunted. Negates monster effects, and also just gets you more monsters. It's such an incredibly useful card. Very, very powerful for the deck. No matter what, this card, as well as also the next card, you're going to want to play 3 of. I know Key is a bit matchup dependent, but however, Secrets and next card as well, which I think is Whispers, both are just really, really, really good, and you should be playing 3 of it. There's really not much more I can say about it, other than just that creepy, just evil face that Lee is doing right there in the artwork. So, yep, Whispers, I knew it. So, World Legacy Whispers is another really good card. When this card is activated, you can target a level 5 or higher monster on the field. It gains 1,000 attacking defense until the end of this turn. Negate any opponent's spell effect that activates in the same column as a Mekk-knight monster. So, this card, along with the other two, really does help, show why Indigo is such a powerful monster, because you can chain Indigo's effect to move him to another zone, or move another dude to another zone to negate spells, traps, and monsters with the spells, and traps of this deck. They're very, very powerful. Whispers especially helps with the OTKs and helping out protect your low attack Mekk-knights. And I know I said based on format here, you do really want to try and max this out as many as you can. For non-pure builds, obviously you're going to play less. But however, for pure builds, I don't see any reason why you would play any lower than 2. At least, I would argue you have to play 3 at the very least. Like, don't play 2 unless nobody's playing spells, which I don't see that ever happening. But this card really is such an incredibly powerful trap card. My biggest issue with it is that the attack boost only lasts until the end of the turn. It's very annoying, but it does help out. And now then, some outside support. So, I know I put World Legacy, World Chalice there, but really pretty much all the generic World Legacy cards are playable in this deck. For the most part, you got like World Legacy Globe, World Legacy Landmark, stuff like that. You can also play World Legacy, World Chalice. It's arguably the best discard target for Scars, but however, due to its effect being so slow in the graveyard, some people play it, some people don't. Just kind of depending on what you think is worth it or not. Then there's also the Kaijus. If you're playing the pure build, you gotta play the Kaijus. The Kaijus are incredibly useful in the deck. You can get rid of one of your opponent's monsters, put a Kaiju in a zone with another card, and then hey, right then and there you got 2 cards in one column, and then you can summon out your Mekk-knights and hopefully summon out Azure, who will then get you even more searches. The Invoke build is the build that's been seeing the most amount of tops lately. I've mentioned that I do not like the Invoke build. It's just, it seems more like Invoked with a Mekk-knight engine. I don't like it. I know some people really, really like that build. If it's up your fancy, up your alley, go ahead. I don't like it though. And then Devpro is a card that I found really useful in the deck, but it's also a bit of a double-edged sword. You got to be careful about when you want to use it. The deck is very susceptible to trap cards, and that's why Key is so good, honestly, as well. And Devpro helps lock down the trap cards and makes it to where you don't have to worry about, well, getting destroyed by a torrential. So that's very, very helpful as well. So these are just some of the outside support cards. There are obviously others, but these are the cards that I've seen that a lot of people have messed around with. So guys, what do you guys think about Mekk-knights? Mekk-knights are an incredibly intriguing deck to me. I really liked them a lot. I feel like they're the second best of the World Legacy archetypes that we've been seeing. Obviously, World Chalice have been seeing the most amount of success. Mekk-knights have been seeing just about almost the same amount of success lately, thanks to the Invoke build. And then, well, Crawlers are just kind of there. So, it's really a fun deck to mess around with. I do recommend trying out the deck if you guys haven't. It's a fun deck to mess around with, depending on the builds. And there's so many different ways to try out playing the deck. So, yeah. Anyways, guys, that's it for the video. What do you guys think of Mekk-knights? What deck do you want me to cover next? I can't really decide. It's got to be something from Legendary Duelist 2, or Extreme Force, or Circuit Break, because I didn't cover everything. Oh yeah, or crap, what was the set that Magical Musketeers came out, and I can't remember. But Magical Musketeers or crap, Six Samurai are also up for the table. I haven't really decided yet. I might cover Magical Musketeers next, since I did promise that I would do that in this video, but you know. Anyways, guys, thank you all for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have a great day. If it's your birthday, happy birthday. See you all later. Peace out and goodbye.